Hello. I grew up just outside of Boston. I'm the middle of three girls. My family is pretty Catholic. They go to church on Sundays, they don't eat meat on Fridays, and they bury a statue of St. Joseph upside down in the front yard when they want to sell a house. They're into weird Irish superstitions too. No hats on the bed, no shoes on a table, and never look ahead in the calendar because you're taking it for granted that God will let you get to that day. My dad likes to say we're more Irish than we are Catholic, and he also likes to say the only other boy in the house was the dog, and look what they did to him. So he's the comedian, and my mom is a silent dictator. She's been a labor room nurse, a disaster relief nurse, and runs a group of hospice and assisted living communities. If you're getting born, you lost your house in a tornado, or you're about to die, the woman is the savior. If you've got something a little more trivial going on, like bronchitis, a broken toe, broken heart, she's going to tell you to walk it off. Sobbing the night before my prom, I told her I'd do anything to lose 50 pounds, and she handed me a knife and suggested I cut off my leg. I can't really describe her power over us. I want to call her a disciplinarian, but it's not accurate. We never had like a chore board, we were never grounded, or we never had a curfew. You were just expected to know what an appropriate time to be home was, and you'd never know if you'd gotten it right. My mother's vague judgment would rain down on you in the form of some kind of torturous Mad Lib. I'm just so that you would, and then you spend the rest of your life trying to fill in the blanks. She's just so mad I didn't clean the kitchen. She's just so horrified I tried ecstasy when I was 18. She's just so surprised I don't like blue cheese. It could be any of those things. And even when I was in my 20s and I turned to her for guidance, Mom, is it bad that I still make tea in a frying pan? Should I leave New York for California? Can you believe my boyfriend is gay again? She would just always respond with, well, we all make choices. It's taken 3 therapists, gallons of wine, and half of a landmark forum to identify the voice in my head. It's my mother, but the problem is it just sighs over and over again, and I don't know what it's trying to tell me to do. Both of my parents have been sex ed teachers, so we were well informed about the birds and the bees, and it was fine to talk openly about sex as long as we weren't having it. And then in 1992, when I was 12, a film called Toy Soldiers came out on VHS. It's about an all-boys boarding school that gets taken over by terrorists. And I watched it 9 times in one weekend. Something was changing. I consulted the sex ed textbooks in our garage. It listed 2 alternatives to sex: abstinence and masturbation. Not thrilled with the first definition, I started to consider the second. And so I consulted our fearless leader. I went up to my mom and said, Mom, is it bad to masturbate? She looked me dead in the eyes and says, it is if you love it more than God. I'm not sure why that was more frightening than any of her other ambiguous assessments, but it stayed with me and I became completely terrified of masturbation. Even later on, when I've been having actual sex, masturbating seemed like voodoo territory. My roommate, Lindsay in New York, was like a masturbating ambassador, and she'd be buying me vibrators, porn, telling me how great it was. I had a boyfriend at the time who asked me to do it in front of him, which even now feels like the plumber asking if he can watch you fix the toilet. Why did I call you? Besides, I still kept hearing a voice whispering, what if you love it more than God? And then when I was 25, a drought hit. New York is 55% women, and of the 45% men, 500,000 of them are gay, and I had slept with all of them. Things were looking bleak, my defenses were down, Toy Soldiers was on TBS, and so the voice was ignored. 2 weeks into this new phase of what was basically regressive adolescence, I felt like it was gonna be okay. We lived in a duplex, I had the downstairs to myself, and no one needed to know. Until Lindsay came home from work early during the scene when the kids take back to school. Unsure what she could hear up there, I yelled, hi, Lindsay. She didn't answer, so I finished the movie. I got ready to leave, not wanting to face her. I listened until I heard her go into the bathroom, ran upstairs and out the door like my life depended on it. Halfway through my rehearsal, I got a 911 text. There was an emergency at the apartment, and I needed to come home right away. All I knew is that something bad had happened, and it was my fault, because I had masturbated myself into a disaster. Walking into the apartment, I saw an actor who I recognized as the star of The Sandlot and Mystic River. He was sitting in the living room smoking pot. "You guys got robbed. Don't worry, we called the police." I asked him to hold off on the weed for a bit while I figured things out. Turns out he was in a play with Lindsay, who I found in the back bedroom crying. A thief had taken her jewelry, cash, liquor from the kitchen, her alarm clock, and the list was growing. I was about to go downstairs to see what valuables I lost. Please not my CD collection or my laptop. Although unless the thief was a sad lesbian, I really only had to worry about the computer. But then the police arrived. Lindsay and I went through what we knew was Detective Portobello. As we tried to piece the timeline together, I asked Lindsay what time she went out again. She said, "No, we just got home an hour ago." "No, I heard you come in at 4 o'clock. I yelled up to you, and I was here for another half hour." Tom, the actor, put it together first. "That was the robber." He was right. "What were you doing?" the police officer answered. "Masturbating," yelled the voice in my head, "because clearly she loves it more than God." But I said nothing and waited for the lightning or the locusts to come find me. But the truth is, nothing happened. My roommate kept hugging me and saying she was glad that I was okay. And weeks went on, and the guilt became unbearable. I had to make things right with the voice in my head, so I called her. "Mom?" "We were robbed. Everyone's fine, but I was home when it happened. I never saw the robber, and the reason I didn't was because I was downstairs masturbating. Because my roommate bought me a vibrator, and I haven't dated anyone in forever. And the thing is, clearly I love doing it more than God because this terrible thing happened, and because honestly, I do love it more than God, Mom." God and I have had some powerful moments, but he's always gone in the morning. I don't hear from him for months, and clearly he's seeing other people. Most importantly, God never made me orgasm. So if Jesus and my vibrator are hanging from a cliff and I can only save one, at this point I'd hesitate. And I would really appreciate it if you would let me know what you think of that. I braced myself, idly wondering where I would spend Christmas from now on, and then realized she was laughing. When she could finally talk, she said, "Jules, you don't love doing that more than God." "But how do you know that, Mom?" I asked. Then she said, "Because none of your stuff got stolen." "But what about my roommate?" "Oh, the one that gave you the vibrator? Well, we all make choices."